It is the goal of this current Israeli government, this Israeli military, AIPAC, and a couple of other organizations to label everyone in the United States who voices concern or support for Palestinian civilians inside the Gaza Strip or protests in support of civilians inside the Gaza Strip, or who voices their opposition to this Israeli government and this Israeli military, and voices their opposition to what this Israeli government and this Israeli military are doing, the wholesale slaughter of Palestinian civilians inside the Gaza Strip. It is the goal of the Israeli government and AIPAC and several other organizations to label anyone who expresses those views, anyone who expresses those opinions, to be labeled by the United States government as either a terrorist or as someone who supports terrorism, who is part of a terrorist support network. And now Project 2025 is getting into that process and getting into that arena, along with the United States ambassador to Israel, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Project 2025 authors are enrolling they're enrolling Mike Huckabee, our ambassador to Israel, as well as the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security in a new right-wing scheme. While Project 2020, so this is an article from rawstory.com, while Project 2025's proposals to dismantle the federal government and purge civil servants with mass firings is ongoing under Donald Trump's administration, lesser known and more secretive plans are also being undertaken, which has pleased the authors of Project 2025. According to a report today from the New York Times, a Heritage Foundation plan to harass and destroy the lives of members of the growing pro-Palestinian movement in the United States is proceeding, with DHS and DOJ doing the dirty work following suggestions found in what is called Project Esther, written by the Heritage Foundation. Yeah. The report notes that Heritage Foundation staffers were deployed to Israel in April, where they met with that country's officials, as well as Ambassador Mike Huckabee. They worked on a blueprint to label any and every critic of the Israeli government and the Israeli military as effectively a terrorist support network. That this is setting the stage for targeting individuals to be deported, defunded, sued, fired, expelled, ostracized, and otherwise excluded from what is considered to be an open society. According to the New York Times, Project Esther's architects are envisioning outcomes that at some time might have seemed far-fetched. Curriculum that it believed to be sympathetic to Hamas support narrative will be taken out of schools and universities, and supporting faculty will be removed. What fucking college or school in the United States is teaching support or sympathy for Hamas as part of its published curriculum? God, I'm getting cranky. The more posts like this I'm doing, I'm getting cranky. Social media will be purged of content deemed to be anti-Semitic. And that's another thing. It's like, if you say one word against this current Israeli government or the actions of this Israeli military, you're immediately labeled as anti-Semitic. I've been called anti-Semitic on this app more times than I can count. And weirdly, it only started after October 7th, 2023. Institutions would lose public funding. Foreign students who pushed for Palestinian rights would have their visas revoked and be deported. The report notes that the Heritage Foundation planners are quite pleased with what they've seen thus far as the efforts of the administration to do these things. The phase we're in now is starting to execute some of the lines of effort in terms of legislative, legal, and financial penalties for what we consider to be material support for terrorism, explained Heritage Foundation's Victoria Coates, who previously served in the first Trump administration. Robert Greenway, who co-authored Project Esther, added, "It's no coincidence that we called for a series of actions to take place privately and publicly, and they are now happening." Stephanie Fox, the executive director of Jewish Voice for Peace, noted the effectiveness with which the Trump administration is using Project Esther playbook, lamenting, "Donald Trump is pulling straight from the authoritarian playbook, using tools of repression first against those organizing for Palestinian rights, and in doing so, sharpening the tools for use against anyone and everyone who challenges his fascist agenda." There is another organization that I wanted to mention that since at least October 7th, 2023, has been actively scouring news media, newspapers, news publications, commentary publications. They've been collecting images and video from any number of college protests, and they are doxing these people. Not only are they doxing these people, but they are doxing these people and providing all of their personal information to the Trump administration. That organization is called Canary Mission. It is staffed, from what I've read, exclusively by Israelis. They're probably using Israeli intelligence assets to identify people in the United States of America. It's for the purpose of getting them fired from their jobs. What else was on that list? Legal penalties, financial penalties, and destroying their lives. And because it's like nobody in the Trump administration knew the names and addresses of these college students who were protesting. The Trump administration got all of that information from Canary Mission. And Canary Mission is continuing on in their work in doxing anyone who speaks out against Benjamin Netanyahu, this Israeli government, and this Israeli military, and the wholesale slaughter of civilians, women and children and teenagers and the elderly Palestinian civilians inside the Gaza Strip. And now Donald Trump has announced, well, I don't think he's announced it publicly, but he's been working on it behind the scenes, working with other countries, including Libya, which is currently in a state of civil war, about relocating 1 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Libya, a country that has a population of like 6 million people and does not have the resources or the infrastructure in the best of times to handle an influx of 1 million refugees, let alone at a time when they are still in an active civil war. So, everybody who didn't vote for Kamala Harris on principle, stand up and take a bow.